Hey, what's up, guys? Okay, so we are back after a week of no Black Clover, which honestly felt a lot longer than that since we don't also have the anime anymore. But we are finally back with chapter 292. And honestly, this chapter actually kind of mixed me up a little bit because of the leaks that came out yesterday. Because, alright, I've been avoiding the leaks a lot lately, but I happened to see one on Twitter yesterday for this week's chapter, and honestly, based on that leaked image, it really made it seem like the bottle was setting up for this fight between Dante and Magna Swing to be very short. But the chapter not only keeps the fight going, it really makes you think again that Magna might actually be Dante, which at first I thought wasn't going to happen. But now, after reading this chapter, I'm starting to think that Tabata might actually let him. Now, getting into the beginning of this chapter, we actually cut back to about 6 months ago when Magna went to Zora to help him train, and just like we all thought, the reason why he went to Zora was because he realized that Zora had his own version of Mana Method that Magna wanted to learn. Now, if you remember, the reason why Magna couldn't learn Mana Method in the Heart Kingdom was because God just said that in order to learn it, you had to be at least stage 3, and at the time, Magna was only at stage 5. So his mana was just way too low to learn the Heart Kingdom's version of Mana Method. But he remembered, just like we all did, that Zora has a low amount of mana because he's also a low stage mage, but his trap magic is very similar to Mana Method, so he has to actually have his own version of it that possibly Magna could also learn. And honestly, before this chapter, I actually thought that Zora's version of Mana Method was actually just a natural aspect of his trap magic, but as we end up finding out in the chapter, he actually did a lot of research and training to develop it, and this goes to show exactly how much of a genius this character actually is, and we already knew that he was actually kind of smart from his introduction, but this chapter really just showed that he's actually probably one of the smartest characters that we've seen so far, because this guy learned the secret technique from the Heart Kingdom by himself without anyone teaching him, and not only did he learn it by himself, he also figured out a way to tweak it so that even a low stage mage like himself could use it too. Okay, so the way that Mana Method works is that you create runes using natural mana, and then you form those runes into arrays, or in other words, basically just arrange them in a certain way that allows you to give your magic commands. And those commands can be anything like, grow bigger or chase my opponent, something like that. And the stronger you are, or basically the higher level stage you are, the faster you can create the arrays on the battlefield. Now, Zora's method is actually very similar, but he has two big differences from the Heart Kingdoms. One is an advantage, and one is a disadvantage. The disadvantage that he has is actually that he can't create the arrays instantly. He has to prepare the arrays, or as he calls them, formulas, which is basically just the same thing but different wording, ahead of time before battle. Just like we saw him do during the Royal Knight selection exam, where he was spreading his traps out on the battlefield before his turn came up, he has to basically do the same exact thing each time he goes into battle. And the reason why he has to do this is because of the fact that he is actually a low stage mage. But being a low stage is actually what gives his mana method an advantage over the one used by the Heart Kingdom. Because apparently his formulas are created with weak mana, so because of that, they can actually last a lot longer than a normal mana method, or the arrays are used by, Noel, or Charmy, or Luck, or Gaja. Which actually does make sense if you think about them in the forms of batteries. Because if you think about it like a battery, something that takes a lot of energy won't last anywhere near as long as something that takes a little bit of energy. But the big drawback to his formulas is that the user has to have an extensive amount of knowledge of both mana and the human body, which means that Magna had to do a lot of studying in order to learn how to do this, which, surprisingly enough, he actually does manage to pull off through a montage we get to see in a chapter. And you know what? I actually like the reason why Tabata has Zora decide to actually train Magna on top of doing his own training for these past 6 months. And it just comes down to Magna being a low class, low level, low stage Magic Knight who's a commoner and uses fire magic reminded Zora a lot of his dad. And we already know that Zora was someone who actually very much respected and loved his father. So because of the fact that Magna reminded him of his dad in this moment, as we see in the chapter, because he actually does have a quick flashback to him, he decided, I'm going to help you out. Then we actually cut back to the fight and we get two brand new details about Soul Chain Deathmatch. One, the chain is actually their souls, like the actual manifestation of their souls. So if Dante tries to break it, he'll end up going insane. The same thing with Magna. And any outside magic that actually tries to interfere will cause the chain to break and actually end up killing them. Or not killing them, but making them go insane. So Zora and everyone else is actually going to stay out of the fight. Magna, Dante can't try to break the chain. They basically just have to beat the hell out of each other until one of them goes down for the count. And now that I think about it, I wonder how Asa's anti-magic would affect that. Like, would him breaking a chain just negate the effects altogether? I mean, I would imagine that if he were to use his Demon Destroyer sword, that would actually take care of the effects. But if he were to use any of his other swords to break the chain, would that cause him to go insane, or would the anti-magic stop that? I'm actually kind of curious now. I'd actually like to see what would happen. Say if, Magna is losing this fight and Dante has the upper hand and Asa shows up to break the chain so that he can separate the two of them. I kind of wonder what will end up happening in that situation. And 2 is a one-time use move, but that doesn't mean that he can only use it for this one fight and never again in the rest of the series. It's a formula, so as long as he can remember the formula, he can do this again over and over again. It's just that he can only use it for this one fight unless he actually has more versions of the formula on hand. Now Dante actually does fight back in this chapter, and we get that moment like I mentioned in the beginning of the video that from the leaks made me think that the fight was actually already over. Because we see Dante mention that he basically can regenerate as much as he wants, so no matter what, as long as he can regenerate, he can't lose. And from the leaked images and from the image in this chapter, it doesn't look like he has a chain on his chest anymore. In fact, the spot where the chain should be, it looks like there's a hole there now, so I originally thought from the leaks that he actually found a way to rip the chain out or cut it off for himself, and then was basically just using his flesh magic to heal himself so that he can actually go back to full power and fight Magna and basically just one-shot him. But as we can see in this chapter, he actually does still have the chain linked to him, so basically just is him just boasting the fact that he can't go down as long as he can regenerate. But despite this, Magna's actually still fighting. He actually keeps on fighting in this chapter, and at the end of the chapter, he actually manages to knock Dante down onto the ground. And you know what? I really got to give Magna credit because he has heart. Because, you know, someone else might have thought, well, this guy can keep regenerating no matter what I do, no matter how many attacks I throw at him. He's just going to heal up from it, so I don't really stand that much of a chance. And really, that's kind of what Magna's in right now. That's the kind of situation he's in. He basically can keep swinging at him, but unless he can actually do a one-hit KO, he can't really take Dante down. But he's still going at it, and, you know, that takes heart. That, you know, he's not being discouraged or anything by what Dante says. He knows that he's weak compared to Dante, but he knows that this is his only chance to actually be useful to his friends. So he's going to actually take it, and basically, even if he ends up dying, he's going to keep on swinging. And yeah, because of that, this chapter is really starting to make me wonder, is Magna actually going to end up winning this fight? Because, I mean, he's really giving it to Dante in this chapter, and all the attacks that Dante throws at him don't really seem to be doing much damage. I mean, originally I thought that he would actually just be a placeholder fight, basically just here to actually kind of keep Dante distracted long enough for Asa to regain his energy, and then once he showed up, we'd actually have a rematch between the two of them. But I mean, if the theory that Lucifero might actually make it into the human world is actually true, then Asa really doesn't need to fight Dante anymore. He can just fight Lucifero because that's really him and Libe's big opponent, not Dante. So we actually could see Dante lose to Magna, and then if in the future parts of this chapter, or the future parts of this arc, we could see Lucifero show up and have that be the rematch between Asta and Libe. And you know what? I was actually just thinking, this fight actually might be perfect for Tabata's writing style, because as we all know, Tabata really likes to cut away from fights every now and then to go focus on other ones. And considering that this fight's pretty much just going to be Magna and Dante punching each other over and over again, we could really stand the time to basically go away from this fight, go focus on, say, the fight between Yuno and Xenon, see the conclusion to that, see the conclusion to Vanica versus Charlotte, and, you know, having Noelle show up and help her out. We could really cut away and go focus on these other fights that we set up and haven't been back to, and then come back to this one once we're near the end of the fight when the two of them are basically bloodied up and one of them's about to fall. I mean, I guess it's just going to come down to endurance. Can Magna outlast Dante's healing? But anyway, guys, that's it for this week's chapter. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please give me a like and subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.